Since the dawn of consciousness, humanity has gazed upon the stars and into the depths of its own soul, asking the most fundamental questions: where do we come from? Who were the first among us? We seek to understand our origins, to find our place in the grand narrative of existence. This universal search connects every culture and civilization across the globe. Humanity has always sought to explain its own beginning. This series will explore compelling theories about human origins and the concept of an original sacred bloodline. It is a quest to uncover a story that some believe holds the key not only to our past, but also to our future. The story of humanity is built upon recorded history, but what if the most important chapter predates it all? What if the true beginning lies buried deep in the prehistoric mist, long before writing? This is the search for the original bloodline of Earth, a foundational group believed to possess a unique connection to the divine. Proponents point to intriguing clues, patterns in global myths, recurring symbols in ancient art, and genetic markers. This investigation requires us to consider ancient scriptures and folklore as potential historical records. This is the journey to uncover the truth about the first people of Earth. At the heart of this story are two names, Yahwaba and Yahusha. To most, these names are unfamiliar, absent from mainstream texts. Yet for researchers and spiritual seekers, these names represent the key to unlocking the mystery of the original bloodline. They are believed to be the true, original Hebrew names for God the Father and Jesus the Christ. The name Yahwaba is presented as the authentic name of the Supreme Creator. Yahusha is identified as the original name of the Son. The relationship between Yahwaba and Yahusha is central to this narrative, potentially in a literal genealogical sense. Who were they, really? One might fairly ask why a story so ancient, revolving around names and events from thousands of years ago, should hold any relevance for us today. In a world grappling with immediate crises, climate change, political instability, and rapid technological disruption, a search for a lost bloodline can seem like a distant, esoteric indulgence. However, the search for the original bloodline and the true identities of Yahwaba and Yahusha is far more than a historical curiosity. For those who follow this path, it is a quest that holds profound implications for our present reality and the future of humanity. It is about reclaiming a lost identity and understanding our true potential. At its core, this narrative is about identity. If a specific people are the descendants of this original bloodline, what does that mean for them today? The theory suggests that the descendants of Yahwaba and Yahusha are a scattered people, often unaware of their true heritage. They have been dispersed across the globe, assimilated into other cultures, and have forgotten their ancestral story. Identifying this group is seen as a crucial step in prophecy, a reawakening that could restore balance to the world. It transforms history from a collection of stories about the past into a living, breathing guide to understanding who we are and where we belong in the present moment. Furthermore, the story offers a powerful alternative to the divisions that plague our modern world. In a society often fractured by race, nationality, and religion, the idea of a single, common ancestral bloodline offers a unifying perspective. It suggests that beneath the surface of our apparent differences, we may share a deeper connection, a sacred inheritance that transcends modern labels. This is not to erase the beauty of our diversity, but to ground it in a shared origin. Understanding this story could, in theory, foster a greater sense of global family and collective responsibility for our planet and for one another. Ultimately, the search for Yahwaba, Yahusha, and the original bloodline is a search for meaning and purpose. It challenges us to look beyond the material world and consider the spiritual dimensions of our existence. It asks us to believe that our lives are part of a much larger cosmic story, one that is still unfolding. By uncovering the past, we may find a clearer path forward. The questions are profound. Who are the original people today? What has happened to them? And what does their re-emergence mean for the rest of humanity? Answering these questions could change everything we thought we knew about our history, our identity, and our destiny. Across human culture, every civilization has its own creation story. From Mesopotamia to the Amazon, humanity has sought to explain its beginning. These tales share a profound theme, a first man and woman, fashioned by a divine creator. This creator imbues them with a special essence, a spark of life. This is the seed of the original bloodline, a lineage that begins with sacred intervention. These myths articulate a deep intuition about our nature. The bloodline was therefore a living conduit from the source of creation itself. The search for Earth's original bloodline begins here, in these stories shared by humanity. It asks us to consider that these myths are echoes of a distant, forgotten truth, a truth about a time when humanity's connection to the divine was unbroken. If a divine bloodline existed, we'd expect traces in early records. Sumer, Akkad, and ancient Egypt offer potential clues. The Sumerian king list details rulers with impossibly long reigns, stating kingship descended from heaven, a bloodline of divine origin. Across cultures, the right to rule was tied to divine descent. Egyptian pharaohs were living gods, their lineage meticulously preserved. Was this political propaganda, or a memory of a time when leaders were qualitatively different? This consistent belief points to a shared ancestral memory. This evidence suggests our ancestors fervently believed in a divine bloodline. It beckons us to look deeper into the identity of the original divine ancestor. Hand in hand with the concept of a divine bloodline is the myth of a golden age. The ancient Greek poet Hesiod described a time when the first race of mortals lived like gods, without sorrow, toil, or old age. In Hindu traditions, the first age of the world is the Satya Yuga, a time of truth and perfect righteousness. Similar stories of a pristine, idyllic past can be found in the traditions of Persia, Egypt, and beyond. This golden age is invariably linked to the purity of the original people living in perfect harmony with nature and the divine. The narrative of the golden age is always followed by a story of decline, attributed to a dilution of the original bloodline. The search for the original bloodline is therefore a search for the path back to that golden age. Within this grand narrative we arrive at a powerful name, Yahweh. This is claimed to be the true personal name of the architect of the original divine plan for Earth and humanity. The name is said to be of ancient Paleo-Hebrew origin. Proponents argue that later translations obscured this name. The significance of restoring a specific name like Yahweh is pretty profound. A name is an identity, a personal signifier, a way to establish a direct relationship with the Creator. It is argued that the loss of this name was a pivotal event, weakening the divine connection. In this context, Yahweh is the being who conceived of the divine spark and designed the original human DNA. Understanding his identity is paramount to understanding the entire mystery. Answering these questions is the first step in reconstructing the lost history of our planet. The creation of the first humans by Yahweh was not the end of the story, but the beginning. To ensure the preservation of the divine essence, a sacred agreement or covenant was established. This was not merely a set of rules or commandments written on tablets. It was a covenant sealed in blood, a biological and spiritual contract between the Creator and his chosen lineage. This covenant designated a specific family line as the guardians of the original code, the pure DNA and the spiritual wisdom that came with it. Their sacred duty was to maintain their purity and pass this inheritance untainted to all future generations. This concept of a blood covenant is a powerful and recurring theme in ancient scriptures. In the Hebraic tradition, covenants are central to the relationship between the divine and humanity. These agreements bind two parties together in a relationship of loyalty and promise. By framing the original lineage in terms of a covenant, the theory posits that this was not a matter of racial superiority, but of sacred responsibility. This specific bloodline was chosen for a purpose, to act as a living anchor for the divine frequency on earth, to be a light unto other nations, and to preserve the genetic and spiritual blueprint for the eventual restoration of all humanity. This sacred lineage was given specific laws and instructions to guide them. These were designed to help them maintain their physical and spiritual purity. The dietary laws, the rules about marriage, and the moral codes found in ancient texts can be reinterpreted in this light. They are not arbitrary regulations, but a form of spiritual technology, a divine protocol designed to protect the integrity of the bloodline from dilution and corruption. Adherence to the covenant was the key to maintaining their connection to Yahweh, which in turn brought blessings, wisdom, and protection. Breaking the covenant would lead to the weakening of the bloodline and a disconnection from their divine source. Thus, the origins of the divine bloodline are rooted in an act of creation followed by an act of covenant. Yahweh, the great architect, not only designed the original humans, but also established a specific protected lineage to carry his legacy forward through time. This was his chosen family, the people entrusted with the most precious gift imaginable, the pure spark of their Creator's own life force. Their story becomes the central thread in the history of our world, a story of a sacred promise, a daunting responsibility, and the constant struggle to maintain purity in a world that tends towards chaos and decay. Placing Yawaba within a conventional historical timeline is challenging. Traditional history relies on tangible evidence, but Yawaba predates recorded history. We're pushing into the deep, misty expanse of the prehistoric world. Proponents situate Yawaba's interactions with humanity long before the Great Flood, possibly tens or hundreds of thousands of years ago. This timeline places the divine bloodline's origins far outside academic consensus. According to this theory, our ancestors weren't just hunter-gatherers. A sophisticated structure guided by Yawaba existed long before Mesopotamia. This golden age left no ruins, only a faint genetic and spiritual echo. Evidence relies on interpreting sacred texts as literal history. Researchers point to out-of-place artifacts defying conventional dating. Yawaba's history wasn't written on stone, but in their DNA. Assigning a date becomes impossible and misses the point. Yawaba represents initial creation and divine governance, outside linear time. It's the time before the fall, before the dilution of the bloodline, and before the great forgetting. Understanding this is key to grasping the scale of what was lost. Understanding who Yawaba was is crucial. The name itself, explored through its Paleo-Hebrew roots, offers insights into his nature. The name Yawaba contains the element Yahweh, widely recognized as the personal name of the God of Israel. This establishes Yawaba as the supreme creator being from the Hebraic tradition. This interpretation frames him as the architect of the cosmos, but also portrays him in a more direct role. He is depicted as a hands-on governor, a king who ruled over his creation. This dual nature as both transcendent creator and immanent king is central to his identity. This concept challenges the typical separation between the spiritual and the political. It would have been a perfect theocracy, a kingdom of heaven on earth. This portrayal of Yawaba as both creator and king has significant implications. The fall from grace can then be understood as a rebellion against this divine kingship. The impact of Yawaba's reign was not fleeting. The divine order he established became the foundational blueprint for law, morality, and social organization. The original law of Yawaba was a simple, intuitive set of principles based on harmony with the Creator. It was a law written not on stone tablets but on the hearts of the original people. This divine constitution was the bedrock of the Golden Age society. As humanity fell, this perfect law began to fade. What replaced it were attempts to codify what was once instinctively known. The great law codes of the ancient world can be seen as echoes of this one, original law. They contain elements of the original truth but are also products of a fallen world. If Yawaba was such a central figure, the creator and king of our world, the most pressing question becomes, why is his name not universally known? Why was it replaced with generic titles or different names? The answer, according to this theory, lies in a long history of deliberate suppression and alteration. This was not an accidental process of linguistic drift. It was an intentional act designed to obscure the true identity of the Creator and sever humanity's direct connection to Him. This process began in antiquity and has continued in various forms right up to the present day. One of the primary controversies revolves around the translation of sacred texts, particularly the Hebrew Scriptures. Proponents argue that early scribes and translators, for a variety of reasons, began to substitute the personal name Yahweh, and by extension Yahwaba, with titles like Adonai, that is Lord, or Elohim, meaning God. One reason cited is a sense of reverence that grew into superstition, a belief that the name was too holy to be spoken aloud. This led to the practice of substitution, and over centuries the substitute title effectively replaced the original name in the common consciousness. What began as a mark of respect ended up erasing the very identity of the one being honored. However, more conspiratorial interpretations suggest a more sinister motive. Obscuring the name of Yahwaba was a way for a priestly or ruling class to insert themselves as intermediaries between humanity and the divine. If people could no longer call upon the Creator by his personal name, they would become more dependent on the religious institutions that claimed to hold the secret keys to a divine connection. This act of suppression was a power play, a way to control the populace by controlling their access to the divine source. By turning a personal father and king into an abstract, distant deity, religious and political leaders could consolidate their own authority on earth. This suppression has created immense controversy. Mainstream religious and academic institutions largely reject these claims, viewing them as unfounded speculation that contradicts established scholarship and tradition. They defend the use of titles like Lord and God as historically and theologically sound. Yet for those who believe in the original name, this rejection is simply further proof of the ongoing suppression. They see it as a continuation of a 2,000-year-old effort to keep humanity in the dark about its true origins and its true creator. The battle over the name of Yahweh is therefore not just an academic debate. It is seen as a spiritual war for the heart and soul of humanity. Despite suppression in time, the legacy of Yahweh lingers like a powerful echo. It exists in the subtle undercurrents of our world, fragments of his law and our moral codes. The most profound legacy is said to be biological, the original divine bloodline. Though scattered, this lineage is believed to have survived, carrying the dormant potential of their ancestor. Their blood holds the memory of the covenant, the key to restoring the divine connection. Their reawakening signals a global restoration and the end of the fallen age, their purpose to preserve the original code, reawaken to their heritage, and rebuild their communities. Yahweh's era continues to influence the present, a legacy of loss and hope. The echo of Yahweh is a call to remembrance and to reclaim a divine inheritance. The name of the Son is paramount to understanding the plan for creation's redemption. This figure is known by his authentic Hebrew name, Yahusha. This restores the very identity and purpose of the Messiah. The name Yahusha is incredibly significant in its meaning. Yahweh is salvation, a declaration of his mission. This contrasts with the name Jesus, which has no intrinsic etymological meaning in Hebrew. Reclaiming the name Yahusha is an act of defiance, reconnecting with the historical and spiritual reality. To truly know him, we must first know his name and what it represents. The connection between Yahusha and Yahweh extends far beyond a shared name and a common purpose. The narrative of the original bloodline posits a connection that is both profoundly spiritual and honestly, shockingly literal. Yahusha is not merely the son of Yahweh in a metaphorical or adopted sense. He is presented as a direct physical descendant of the divine bloodline, the ultimate expression of the original human code. This theory interprets the virgin birth not just as a miracle, but as a specific act of divine genetic engineering. Yahweh himself is seen as directly fathering Yahusha, implanting a pure, uncorrupted seed into the womb of his mother, Mariam, or Mary. This act was necessary, according to the theory, because the bloodline on earth had become diluted over millennia. Even within the chosen people of Israel, intermingling and disobedience to the covenant had corrupted the original genetic and spiritual code. No man on earth carried a purely untainted paternal line any longer. To fulfill the prophecies and provide a perfect, spotless sacrifice, a new progenitor was needed. Yahweh bypassed the corrupted paternal lines of earth and initiated a new branch of the family tree directly from himself. Yahusha was therefore both fully human, through his mother, and fully divine, through his father, Yahweh, in the most literal sense. This makes Yahusha the perfect inheritor of the original covenant. The blood that flowed in his veins was, quite literally, the blood of the Father. He was the living embodiment of the original Adam before the fall, the physical manifestation of Yahweh's perfect design for humanity. This is why his blood held such redemptive power. It was not just the blood of a righteous man, it was the blood of the divine king, containing the pure, uncorrupted life force and genetic code of the Creator himself. His sacrifice was a transfusion, a reintroduction of the original divine blueprint back into the human gene pool, making a path for restoration possible. This understanding of a direct genealogical link fundamentally reframes the identity of Yahusha. He is the prince of the royal bloodline, the heir to the throne of his father, Yahweh. His coming to earth was a royal visitation, a king returning to his own domain to reclaim his inheritance and his people. He was not just a teacher or a prophet. He was the physical continuation of the divine family on earth. This direct descent is the bedrock of his authority and the source of his power to save, heal, and restore the people who were created in his Father's image and carry the remnants of that same sacred bloodline. Yahusha's mission on earth was precise and specific, directly tied to his unique genealogical standing. His primary purpose was not to create a new universal religion for all of mankind, but to seek out and begin the process of restoring the original bloodline. This is explicitly stated in his own words when he declares, "I was not sent except to the lost sheep of the house of Israel." This statement is taken literally. The lost sheep were the scattered descendants of the 12 tribes of Israel, the people of the covenant, the carriers of Yahweh's divine lineage, who had been dispersed among the nations, and had, for the most part, forgotten their true identity. His ministry was therefore one of gathering and reawakening. He traveled through the lands of ancient Israel, teaching, healing, and reminding the people of their true heritage and their forgotten covenant with Yahweh. His parables and teachings were coded messages for those who had ears to hear, designed to stir the dormant spirit of the bloodline within them. He was calling his family members home, reminding them of their royal identity and their responsibilities under the original covenant. His miracles were not just displays of power, but signs of the restoration of the original divine order, a taste of the world as it was meant to be under Yahweh's law. The ultimate act of this restoration mission was his death and resurrection. His sacrifice was the final perfect blood offering required by the covenant, an act that atoned for the centuries of disobedience that had weakened the bloodline. His sinless, divine blood was powerful enough to cleanse the entire lineage, past, present, and future. It activated a new covenant written not on stone but on the hearts of his people. By accepting his sacrifice and pledging allegiance to him as their king, the scattered descendants could be spiritually and genetically grafted back into the pure original family tree from which they had been broken off. This mission of restoration is an ongoing process. Yahusha's first coming initiated the gathering, but the work was not completed. He prophesied that his followers would continue this work, taking his message to the ends of the earth to find the remaining lost sheep. The ultimate fulfillment of his mission will be his second coming, when he returns not as a humble servant, but as the conquering king. At that time, he will complete the gathering of the entire restored bloodline of Israel, defeat the forces that oppose his father's kingdom, and re-establish the perfect divine law of Yahweh on earth forever. The teachings of Yahusha were a powerful call to return to the true spirit of the original law given by his father, Yahweh. He challenged man-made traditions that had obscured the divine commandments. He came to restore them to their full original meaning and demonstrate their perfect application. He emphasized the core principles of love for Yahweh and one's neighbor. He was revealing the simple, powerful heart of the original divine order. Yahusha's teachings focused on the concept of the kingdom of Yahweh, a tangible real-world government. His parables taught his descendants how to live as loyal citizens of this coming government. His message was revolutionary: pledge allegiance to the true king and his law. To follow the teachings of Yahusha is to commit to a radical way of life. It means embracing the law of Yahweh as the perfect blueprint for a life of freedom. The ultimate legacy of Yahusha is not a religion. According to the narrative, his legacy is a people, a renewed family, a continuation of the sacred lineage. Institutions built around his name are a departure from his true mission. He came to redeem his family members and call them back into covenant with their father. His legacy is biological and national, not religious. The true heirs of Yahusha are connected to him by blood and faith. This includes the physical descendants of the scattered tribes of Israel and those from other nations who pledge allegiance to Yahweh and Yahusha. Through the new covenant, they become citizens of Israel, sharing in the promises made to the bloodline. Their inheritance is a place in a restored nation, a heritage passed down through generations. Ultimately, it's the story of a father and son working together to save their family. The story of the original people, the bearers of Yahweh's sacred bloodline, does not end with the ministry of Yahusha. The ancient Hebrew scriptures were filled with stark warnings and prophecies of a time when, because of disobedience, the chosen people would be forcibly removed from their land. They would be scattered, losing their language and memory. This prophesied scattering was a direct judgment from Yahweh for breaking the covenant. The scattering served a dual purpose: punishment and preservation. They became a hidden people until their reawakening. The Assyrian captivity and the Roman destruction of Jerusalem propelled them into a global exile. This diaspora turned them into the lost sheep, a fragmented family spread across the globe, assimilating and forgetting their heritage, waiting for their shepherd. Imagine a divine bloodline scattered across the globe, hidden in plain sight, their story buried in the margins of history. The clues to their identity are found in the customs and oral traditions of migratory and oppressed peoples. like the Igbo, Lemba, and Beta Israel, whose practices echo ancient Israel. Similar patterns appear among the Pashtun and Crypto Jews, suggesting the bloodline mixed with many nations, transcending race or color. What unites them is a shared experience of oppression and a deep, inexplicable yearning for a lost homeland. When they hear the true names of Yahweh and Yahusha, something awakens, a sense of homecoming, as if a long-lost memory stirs within. Today, genetics offers a new way to trace the lost bloodline, searching for ancient Middle Eastern markers in scattered populations. The Cohen modal haplotype, found among Jewish Kohanim and the Lemba, provides scientific support for oral traditions of Israelite descent. Researchers examine Y chromosome, mitochondrial and autosomal DNA, seeking links between known Middle Eastern groups and those dispersed by migration and slavery. While genetic evidence is complex and debated, it adds a vital piece to the puzzle, complementing history and tradition. For many, this is a modern fulfillment of prophecy, a tool revealing the hidden children of Yahweh in the last days. Centuries of exile and assimilation nearly erased the identity of Yahweh's descendants, leaving them forgotten, labeled by their oppressors. Their shared history of suffering, slavery, colonization, oppression, ironically points to their true heritage. Yet prophecy promised a reawakening, a time when the forgotten would remember, stirred by the true names of Yahweh and Yahusha. Across the world, people are rediscovering their roots, experiencing a profound spiritual revival. This awakening means unlearning old narratives and embracing a new, ancient identity. It's not a man-made movement, but a prophesied return. Yahweh calling his children home, restoring their purpose. The story doesn't end with awakening. It leads to the prophesied second great gathering. Yahweh promised to reunite his scattered people, not just spiritually but physically, a new exodus, greater than the first. The gathered descendants will form the foundation of a restored kingdom led by Yahusha, fulfilling the original divine plan. The world's corrupt systems will be replaced by the perfect order of Yahweh's kingdom. Their suffering will be transformed into joy and honor as they inherit the earth and rule with their king. This hope of restoration fuels the awakening, a promise of vindication for the once-forgotten bloodline. Our journey has woven together scripture, history, and identity, exploring the mystery of the original bloodline. We traced a divine lineage entrusted with a sacred covenant, lost through disobedience and scattering, yet preserved in memory and DNA. The story reframes history as a search for a lost family, with Yahusha as the Redeemer, restoring the scattered to their royal heritage. This narrative challenges conventional views, transforming the Bible into a genealogical record of a chosen people. It connects creation, exile, and reawakening, revealing a cosmic plan of redemption. The puzzle, once assembled, unveils an epic story of humanity's past and its destined future. The legacy of Yahweh and Yahusha is not one of stone monuments, but something far more intimate and enduring. It is a legacy written in blood and spirit, carried across millennia by a people who were prophesied to forget their own identity. The endurance of this bloodline is presented as the central miracle of the entire story. This legacy continues today in what is described as the Great Awakening. Individuals are beginning to piece together the clues left behind in scripture, culture, and genetics. They are hearing the true names of the Father and the Son, stirring a dormant ancestral memory. The enduring legacy of Yahweh and Yahusha is a living movement as the lost sheep remember who they are. Ultimately, the legacy of Yahweh and Yahusha is one of profound and unwavering hope. It promises that what was lost will be found, what was broken will be mended, and what was stolen will be returned. It is the ultimate story of redemption for an entire nation who will be gathered to inherit the kingdom. This enduring hope is the most powerful legacy of all. This narrative leaves us with unanswered questions at the crossroads of faith and proof. The journey is far from over. Historical evidence remains elusive. We can point to echoes in myth, but concrete proof remains out of reach. Researchers must continue digging. The genetic search is exciting. We may draw clearer lines between populations and ancestors. This requires collaboration between geneticists, historians, and theologians. The path forward is meticulous research. There are profound spiritual questions. Who are the descendants today? It's a matter of the spirit. Studying scriptures, align with the covenant. It's a personal journey of study, prayer, and a leap of faith. What happens next? What will this look like in our world? Prophecies speak of upheaval, followed by Yahusha's return. The path is watchful waiting, living as loyal citizens. arrival is believed to be closer than ever. In the end, what we have explored is more than just a fascinating historical theory or an alternative interpretation of Scripture. It is a profound challenge to our understanding of reality itself. The story of Yahweh, Yahusha, and the original bloodline is a quest for ultimate truth, a truth that, if real, would have staggering implications for every human being on the planet. It suggests that our origins are more divine, our history more tragic, and our future more glorious than we have ever been led to believe. It reframes our existence from a brief, random accident in a meaningless universe to a pivotal role in a cosmic drama of epic proportions. This quest forces us to confront the biggest questions of all. Is there a creator? Does he have a personal name? Did he establish a chosen people with a specific purpose? And is there a plan for redemption and restoration currently unfolding in our time? These are not trivial questions. The answers determine our identity, our purpose, and our ultimate destiny. To dismiss this narrative without careful consideration would be to turn our back on a potential truth that could unlock the deepest mysteries of our existence and provide the very answers that humanity has been searching for since the dawn of consciousness. The search for the original bloodline is, therefore, a deeply personal one. It invites us to look at the world around us, at the turmoil and the beauty, and ask if there might be a deeper story playing out behind the scenes. It encourages us to look within ourselves, at our own spiritual longings and our sense of identity, and ask if we feel a connection to this ancient story of exile and homecoming. It is a call to move beyond passive acceptance of inherited traditions and to become active seekers of truth, willing to follow the evidence wherever it may lead, no matter how much it challenges our preconceived notions. Ultimately, whether you view this narrative as literal history, powerful metaphor, or a blend of both, its message is one of profound significance. It speaks of a lost identity waiting to be reclaimed, a broken family waiting to be reunited, and a fallen world waiting to be restored. The story of the original bloodline and DNA of the Earth does not offer easy answers, but it does offer a compelling vision of hope and purpose. It is a reminder that our story is not over, and that the most important chapters may be yet to be written, as the children of Yahweh finally awaken and prepare for the return of their King.